Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining me. I am delighted to be hosting this workshop to create a geometric heart design for hospital rooms, and obviously supported by anthropology. So yes, I just wanted to, I'll give you a bit of an introduction about sort of my work and show you some examples a bit later on, but as there are a few stages to the process of making this piece, I wanted to get cracking. So first of all, I wanted to show you a few of the pieces of equipment that we've got. You should hopefully have received a template, which is this piece here, and a colour matching sort of design, just to show you what the colours are going to be and where we're going to place them. And this is obviously the list of equipment that we will be using. Hopefully you've had a printout of that. So first of all, hopefully you've got a piece of A4 card with you. And then running through the various pieces of equipment that I've got here, first of all, hopefully you'll be able to see this lovely shiny, it's actually imitation gold leaf, which is far sort of less expensive, and hopefully more accessible for people to use, but it does equally as good a job as real gold leaf. So we'll be using that a bit later. Here we've got our gold size, which is basically a glue that you use for sticking the gold leaf to. We have our paints here, which I've actually got some acrylic paint, but you can use any paint you like, and really any colour combinations that you like, but these are quite a nice combination with the gold. And a pot for your glue, your size, something for your water, a brush, which I've just got this Chanel makeup brush, which actually I use in my new work, and but you can use any sort of brush to clear off the excess gold leaf. I've got a pencil, a paintbrush, and today we're not going to be doing the stitching, but hopefully at the end of this session I'll have some time to show you how I go ahead and stitch the works after I've painted. So if you want to stick around for that, then I'll be able to show you. So first things first, you've got your template heart design here, which we are going to lay over the top of the card and just make sure that it's lined up. And what we're going to do is take your pencil, which hopefully is very sharp, and we are literally going to, at the points of the geometric design, it's really like sort of going around in a sort of a methodical fashion. You are literally going to press your pencil quite hard on the points of the geometric design, which will impress hopefully a mark on the card underneath, and that will allow you, once you've taken the template off, to then, it's a bit like paint by numbers, you're sort of joining the dots in order for us to start drawing, joining the dots and drawing it up so that we can see where our geometric sections are going to be. And you just really need to, I sort of press and wiggle it around a little bit. And if you just work your way around, it's really easy to miss a point. So what I do, once you've pressed down, is I hold on to the paper and just lift it up on the side like this. And then I can see here that I've missed a point. And there we are, just checking that I've got all of the points marked. Once you've done this, you can take your template away, don't need that anymore. And then you need to grab your ruler, and you literally, very easily, just join up your marks. Hopefully you'll be able to see the marks nice and clearly. And what I actually do is I go around the edges first. So you're literally joining the dots on the edges. like so. And you'll start to see the heart shape emerge. And actually it is quite good to have that template nearby, just to sort of reference where the lines should go. This is quite a relatively simple design. Some of my other designs that I do have got so many facets to them, and it takes quite a while. I get a little bit confused about which lines I'm kind of joining to which. Luckily it's in pencil, so if you do make a mistake, hopefully you'll have a rubber nearby and you can just rub it out. So we've done the middle, the outside, and then I'm just going to fill in the middle now, joining the dots in the middle, and you can keep referring back to your template design here just to see where the lines go, just like so. It's quite satisfying just to start seeing the shape kind of forming. And then we're just going to the side here. Like so. Sometimes you do need to blow away some of the excess lead from your pencil if it's I use quite a hard pencil, which just means it doesn't smudge quite so much. There we go. So that's one half done. You'll see there. And then we'll start drawing the other side. What I love about working in the way that I do is it's quite a sort of mindful process, in that you've sort of mapped out what your design is going to be. And as I say, I sort of reference, sort of join the dots, painting by numbers, but it's really nice sort of, in a way, knowing what the stages are and what you're doing next. So, you know, I often listen to music or a podcast whilst I'm working away. So here we are, we've got your geometric design is now drawn out. And the next stage, you're going to need your glue, your gold acrylic gold size, and your vessel, a pot, which you can pour your glue into. You really don't need that much glue. It goes, a little goes a long way. It is incredibly sticky. So I'm just going to pour a tiny bit into the pot. If everyone can see, the heart design is now drawn on. So I'm just going to start painting on the gold size, which is here, and I've got my paintbrush. Now, one of the good things you can start referencing now is your colour chart, which shows you, you'll see the yellow sections here, which have the sections that we're going to be painting with gold leaf. So as I say, you don't need a huge amount of this size. It's the glue, it kind of a little goes a long way. And we're just going to start literally painting the sections that are yellow on the colour plan. Now, on the internal sections of the design, don't worry too much if you go over the edges, because we're going to be painting. So don't worry too much about that. And you just are covering each section. I'm left-handed, so I work on this sort of right-hand side first, so that I'm not smudging. So I don't know if you're right-handed, you may want to start on the left. And what I tend to do, you'll see that probably in the view here, it doesn't look like I'm painting anything on, but once you've painted a section, what's quite handy is if you sort of glint it in the light, you'll see that the glue is applied on there. And that's actually a good indicator to show that you've covered that whole section. And then you can move on to your next sections. The glue takes, well, they advise to sort of wait around 15 minutes for the glue, but it does actually get sort of tacky enough for you to apply the gold leaf in about sort of 5 minutes. And what you'll see here is I'm rotating the paper, which means that it's easier to sort of paint into the different kind of corners of each section. And again, if you just lift it to view, and you can see you've painted that section, and you can just double check for yourself whether you've missed any sort of bits. Sometimes I do tend to have not checked, and then I go to apply the gold leaf and a section of it has been missed. So we're just going to go through each of the sections and paint them. This is the sort of, it's a funny stage of the process because it looks as if you're perhaps not doing anything at all, but what's wonderful is as soon as the glue is dry enough, then once you apply the gold leaf to it, it's such a wonderful transformation. It does suddenly, your artwork just suddenly comes to life with the gold. So you're doing a great job by doing this preparatory work. And again, I'm just going to hold it up to check that section. Okay. So I've done the right hand side now. I'm just going to move on to painting. I start at the top here, so I'm not smudging the bottom section. Dipping in. As I say, if you are going over the edges slightly with the glue, try as much as you can not to go over the edges on the external section outside of the heart, but if on the internal lines you do slightly, don't panic, because we'll be adding paint and we can cover over any bits that you've gone over.
And just as a time check for everyone, we're about 15 minutes through today's workshop.
Yeah, as I say, this first bit is the thing that takes sort of the longest. When I'm doing some of my more complicated designs, sort of applying the size for the gold leaf can take many hours to do. And you kind of think, well, nothing's really changing, but it's wonderful when you actually do apply the gold leaf. You start seeing the artwork really coming together. we're getting there. After this, one more section to apply to the gold leaf. And whilst we're just allowing them to dry, I thought I would just show you a few examples of some of my works, just to show you the effects of the gold, and also about how I stitch the artworks, which, as I mentioned, we're not going to be actually stitching today, but I can show you the effect that it has on the artworks. And it may be something you'd like to try at a later date. It's a very easy process to do. So, and once you've applied the glue, one thing that's great to do, and I'll just hold this up so you can see, there's all the glue applied, is just to have a careful check. You can hold it slightly to an angle, you see how it's slightly shiny there, just to see if you've missed any sections, and if you have, I can see here, there's a tiny bit that I've missed here, which when you apply the gold leaf, it obviously won't stick to that section. So it's worth just having a good careful check on, particularly around the kind of edges and the corners, that you've managed to get all of the gold leaf, the glue down. If once you put the gold leaf down and stuck it on, you notice that some sections you haven't got, it hasn't applied the gold leaf to, don't panic, because you can actually apply little bits of glue to those sections afterwards and then reapply the gold leaf. So it's quite a kind of forgiving process. So I think I'm pretty much there with adding the glue. Now, importantly, once you've finished applying your size, your glue, what's important to do is wash your brush. I've just got some slightly warm water here. It's water-based, so you don't need any sort of horrible white spirit or anything smelly like that, but just the glue does tend to kind of clog your brush, so give it a good rinse. And if you've got a cloth to hand, just give it a dry. So we're just going to wait for a few minutes just to allow that to dry a little bit. You can give it a little shake if you wanted to. And then I'll just, whilst that's drying, I just thought I would show you a few examples of some of my works. These are some designs that I've done. These are a set of bird wings. You'll see, if I hold this up closer, we've got our painted sections, gold leaf, and then this textured element is the thread. I often use neon threads, which just gives the surface this lovely texture and allows the design to kind of really pop off the page. And this is one of the first designs that I ever created. Again, stitched. I also do some more typographic, excuse some of the language on this one, but this is a typographic piece that I've done, which is all very bold. And again, you've got the stitched elements around the letters here. Really, you can create anything you like. A lot of things you can sort of add a geometric kind of sort of design to, whether it's a pre-existing geometric design, or I often will have a photograph or an image which I'll then just work geometric lines over the top of and create one myself. So it's very easy to do. Right, so you've now got your glued up design here. which hopefully is dry enough. One thing that you can do is just give it a very light touch, and you'll see it feels quite tacky. And that will show you that it's ready to kind of add the gold leaf to. And so what we've got here are these sheets. They're called transfer sheets, which means that the gold leaf is pressed onto, it's a bit like sort of baking paper or sort of a light sort of paper. And that allows it, it's very easy for you then to work with adding it onto your design. So what I tend to do is lay it down. I'll probably do half the design. So I just let you make sure that the shiny side is facing down, and you lay it carefully over your design, and you'll see that it's very easy to stick to. And you literally just, what I do is I stroking the gold leaf over the design like this, and then you lift it up and it will have stuck down. And you may need to go over some little sections that haven't quite stuck. And then on the other side, just exactly the same. I lay it down and you'll see that it sticks very easily. You may need, if you wanted to, if you've got smaller sheets, you can use sort of 1 or 2. And you'll see it looks like a bit of an old mess at the moment. And you just make sure that that's really nicely applied down. And at this point, you will need to get your brush. This is a makeup brush that I use. And you'll see there that it's all stuck on. And what we do is you very lightly just start brushing the excess gold from the design, like this. And where there's no glue, you'll see that it will start to come away. And you can just do it lightly and just work your way around nice and slowly. And you'll see that the shape starts to emerge very slowly. I'm afraid your whichever room you're working in will be covered in excess gold leaf. I seem to find it in all different sections of my house, on the floor, all over the ceiling. So it is something that you just have to deal with when you're working gold leaf. So I usually just shake that off to the side, ready to clear up later. And you'll see I do have some sections here which will need touching up later, but that's not a problem. And I have actually, I think there's a little bit here, there's a little bit of glue that was stuck down there. So one of the best things actually for that is getting a rubber, and you can actually just rub that away and it will get rid of that little section.
Poppy, we've had a few questions regarding the brush that you're using. If you can give us a recap on the type of brush it is you're using, and also where to purchase the gold leaf from as well.
Oh yes, so you can use any type of brush. I've got a couple here actually. One here which is a chiseled brush. You'll see that this shape is sort of a chiseled edge, and some people might find that easier to get into the corners with. I actually am using quite a thin brush here, which holds the glue quite well. So and it's got quite a thin edge to it, so you can get into the corners there. But any sort of brush, it doesn't really matter. With regards to the gold leaf, there are a number of places. Amazon, in terms of imitation gold leaf, Amazon is good. the company I got this gold leaf from is called goldleafsupplies.co.uk, and they're brilliant. I think this was maybe £5 for 25 sheets. So, you know, it's really good value, and you get a lot of use out of it. So that's great. I hope that answers your questions.
Thanks so much, Lucy. And just to recap for everyone, that we have a full material list that includes links to where you can purchase these online as well on our website. If you visit hospital-rooms.com, then visit the Digital Art School tab. Under registration and resources is where you'll find all the links to join our workshops as well as the materials.
Brilliant. So once the gold leaf is applied, we've got our paints here. I've got a sort of turquoise, a blue, and also a pink. As I say, you can use any type of paint. Acrylic and gouache are really good options. And what we're going to do is, if you've got your colour chart beside you, that's quite good for referencing. So the first one I'm going to go for is the blue, the dark blue. So you need just a little tray, or I use old sort of pot lids, you know, like yogurt pot lids, which are quite handy. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of the paint to the lid. And it's really up to you in terms of what consistency you want to use for the paint, but and in terms of the effect that you want to create. But for this design, I'm going to thin my paint down quite a lot so that it's almost quite like a watercolor consistency. But if you wanted to go for a sort of thicker, sort of almost like poster-like paint, that's obviously a different effect, and you may need to do a few layers of that paint just to give it a really good even wash. So now I've got my blue paint and I'm just dipping into my water there. And again, you can turn your page around, turn the design around so that you're getting the kind of correct angles. I like to turn it sort of to the side so that I can kind of quite easily get the coverage that I need, because sometimes getting into these little nooks and crannies can be quite challenging. And again, you can work around doing different layers, you know, so you can put one layer on, wait for it to dry, and then add another layer if you wish to have a sort of thicker style to it. But for this one, I think I'm just going to do a nice thin layer of the paint, and it gives it a nice sort of watercolory feel to it. So there we go, that's one section. And I'm going to now follow my colour chart. So I'm going to this blue section here and just adding the blue to here. I'm looking at my design at the moment, and I don't know if any of you have with your gold leaf. There are some edges to my gold leaf that need to be touched up. They haven't gone quite to the edge, but that's not a problem because we can go back at the end and sort of touch that up so that the gold leaf goes right to the edge. Hopefully the paint's gliding on nice and smoothly.
Poppy, we've had another question come through from Leslie, one of our lovely participants today, who asks, is your paper copier paper, cardstock, or another kind of paper?
Hi Leslie, this is just bog standard card actually that I'm using, but for my designs that I sort of work on, my commissions, I actually use a paper stock called Colour Plan paper, and there's a company called GF Smith who stock colour plan. It's a really lovely style of paper, and they have a great range of different colours. So I think you'll have seen in one of the samples that I showed a sort of turquoise background. I find that the gold works really well on sort of turquoise navy papers. So yes, colour plan, and it's spelt the American way, COLOR. Plan paper is a really good option. But yes, this is just a white card that I'm using today. But really, you can use any card, and I would recommend using card, quite a thick card over paper, because it tends to sort of buckle slightly if it's too thin. So it's good to have nice thick card. And actually some of my other works, a lot of my works, I actually, and it's a bit more of a challenge, I actually paint and stitch onto birch plywood, which is obviously a completely different surface, and it requires drilling the holes that I need to stitch into. That's not really one for today.
And just a time check for everyone, we've got about 20 minutes left of today's workshop.
So nearly done with the blue. I'll wash my brush, and there to show you the blue is added on. Again, I know I've said it a few times, but if you did want it to be more of a sort of block colour, as I've shown in this design, then all that would be required is for you to go over it again with another layer once that layer is dried. So the next section I'm going to use is this, which is a lovely, it's called Sea Breeze. This is a company called Americana, who do some nice acrylic paints, and I think you can get them on Amazon. But this colour in particular is one that I use quite a lot, and it's got a really nice coverage. You don't need to apply more than 1 or 2 layers to get a really nice colour on this one.
And for those of you that are working a little bit more slowly than Poppy is today, just a reminder that the session today is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel by tomorrow morning.
Yes, I'm aware that sort of fiddly sort of sections to paint can sometimes take a little bit longer. So I do hope, just as Jen said, please, feel free to refer back and take your time with colouring and painting the sections. The other option that I did actually think about the other day, if anyone sort of is feeling a bit nervous about using paint or hasn't got access to paintbrushes, etc., another great option for colouring in the sections is if you've got any sort of, I don't know, pens, or you can get some fantastic sort of almost like paint pens. So that's another option if you didn't fancy getting the paints out. And the nice thing with watering your paint down a little bit is that it hopefully glides on a little easier. So got one more section to do on this turquoise colour, and then the last colour is the pink. Again, you can use any colour combination really that you want to. You know, pick your favourite colours, and what's actually quite handy with having something like this, I'm not saying you need to create a sort of template or a colour chart, but working out just, you know, in advance, you can see, you know, do a little sample piece of card just to see how the colours work together and sort of in which sections you want to do which colour. Now I'm just going to clean off my brush, and the last section we're going to work on is the pink. So that's the blue now done.
Brilliant, thank you, Poppy. So Poppy, you've obviously given us a colour guide as to the colours that you would choose to select. And what about if people wanted to use kind of different colours? Could they replace those with ones that they prefer to use?
Absolutely, yes. As I say, the world is your oyster in terms of what colours you want to use. I'd say if you decide to work on a darker paper, so some of my designs are on navy, and actually the giveaway geometric heart design that I'm doing is actually on a navy paper. What I would say is that you often need to do a sort of primer first. So I just used a sort of white primer to cover the whole heart, and then you can add your paint on top, because often if you're using a darker paper and you try and paint, say, this pink on top, it really doesn't show up particularly well. So obviously colour combinations, and it's entire preference really, but you know, some colours do jar next to each other, so you know, sometimes you want to kind of be careful about, I don't know, putting an orange next to I was going to say next to red, but actually I really love the combination of orange and red together. But yes, just having a play around and seeing which colours you feel work well. I think in my work I am kind of drawn to turquoise and blue as a sort of palette, and I like working with quite a lot of neon pink, but again, it's entirely up to the individual what kind of colours he'd like to use. And the great thing with this, you can put, you know, with the template, not the colour one, but the other one that is provided with this workshop, is you can just print that out and have a go on the paper at some colour combinations that you want, and even, you know, experimenting with putting the gold leaf in some different sections. You don't have to do it in exactly where I've placed the gold leaf, so it's really up to you.
Poppy, we've had a question come through from Val, and Val would like to know, how robust is the gold leaf on the finished art, and do you frame your works, Poppy?
Hi Val, that's a great question. Real gold leaf is very, very fragile, and you have to be incredibly careful with touching the surface. It can sort of tarnish. I'd say that imitation gold leaf is much more robust and malleable, and so you can definitely, you know, stroke the surface, which I'm doing here, and it won't tarnish at all. So that's one of the positives with the imitation gold leaf. And yes, most of my works are framed. I do actually, some of the larger works of mine that I do on wood, I frame them without glaze, without glass on the front, which means that I do actually have to varnish the gold leaf with a special varnish, because otherwise it would tarnish too much. So you do have to be quite careful with real 24 karat gold leaf, but yes, I hope that answers your question. So you'll see here, I've done my first sort of layer of paint. Again, I think for just in terms of the time frame of everything, I would leave it there, but you would absolutely feel free to, you know, go over these sections, the coloured sections, if you would like to have a sort of more depth within your paint and less of a watercolour base. And you may wish to sort of touch up some of the outlines of the gold leaf if you've missed any of the edges. One of the things I was actually going to suggest, Jen, I don't know if we've still got enough time for me to just show a little example of what you can do if you haven't got access to needles and threads, but you wanted to have a bit more of a sort of definition and a line to the design. One of your options is actually, you can get what I've got here is a sort of navy ballpoint pen. And actually what you can do with that is take your ruler, and actually one thing I would say, this ruler here has a sort of beveled edge on the side, so you can actually turn it upside down so that the ruler it's not sort of, the edge isn't sort of directly on the artwork itself, and you can actually you can draw your lines between the design, the facets of the geometric sections. And what that actually does is just gives a sort of other sort of layer of definition to the different sections. I'd have to be relative. I think what needs to happen is this needs to dry a little bit in order for me to do the internal sections, but just to show you, you can literally, as we did at the beginning with drawing with the pencil, you can just join up your lines with a pen. It doesn't have to be blue, it can be any colour, and it will just allow quite a nice definition between the different sections. And also, one of the things I find with stitching is that if you've gone over it a little bit, the stitching is actually quite forgiving for covering up any sections that you've sort of gone over. So sometimes that's quite a nice thing to do. So that's just showing you, I don't know if you can see there, you'll see here the blue, I've just drawn a blue line down the side, so you can do that on sort of the rest of the design if you wish to have a bit more definition. Then alternatively, if you did have access to needle and thread, I'm just going to show you, these are some examples of some of the colours that I use for threading the artworks. You'll see I'm quite a lover of all things neon, blues and neons. Probably I'd say for a design like this, you'd want to go for either a kind of bright sort of neon pink or a blue, just to really kind of make it stand out. And it's pretty much like stitching any normal piece of work, like a bit of fabric, but you'd literally just thread through the artwork and stitch as if you were stitching something, you know, on fabric, and it does just give a really nice definition to the artwork. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I don't know, Jen, what the timing is of everything, and whether you wanted me to show you some of the stitching, or there were any more questions.
Yeah, we're doing good for time, Poppy. I think we're kind of drawing to the end. We've had a few requests. If you could just hold it up to the screen for the camera, sorry, for a little bit longer, just through the detail again, so that people can kind of catch up with parts are paint, which parts are gold leaf, and which parts are pen as well, if you could talk us through.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here you've got the design, and you'll see obviously the sections that are in the gold leaf are very nice and sparkly and shimmery. And then hopefully you'll see the sections here for the dark blue, the turquoise, and then the pink. As I say, you can absolutely decide on what your colour combinations and where you want to position your paint. With this template, which is there available to download from hospital rooms, you can you know, just have a play around and work out what kind of combinations work best for you. But what I do find that's quite nice is for this one particularly, you'll see that the sort of gold leaf sections kind of interconnect and join. I'm sort of all about symmetry, so you'll see that it's symmetrically kind of balanced as to the sections on each side. I mean, I suppose you can do what you like. You could make it completely asymmetrical and, you know, not have exactly the same on each half. But I do think it's quite a nice sort of satisfying sort of geometry and symmetry there. That's why I've sort of done it in a symmetrical way. And then these, I don't know if you can see these pen lines here. I'm afraid because it's still slightly wet, it's slightly tricky for me to draw more lines whilst this paint is wet. But you could have a play around, again, maybe on a separate piece of card. You could do a little sample at one sort of segment of the geometric design, or a couple of segments, and just work out what colour pen might look really nice. I did one the other day with a black pen on the outline, which actually looked quite effective. This is obviously blue, but you can really have a play around with any sorts. And actually the great thing about the stitching, if you don't like it, you can just take the stitching out. I've often stitched something which has not worked, or the colours just jar a little bit with the paint, and I just have unthreaded it and started again. You can also experiment with perhaps doing one colour sort of thread or pen on the internal sections here, and then a different colour for the outside, so that you've got a kind of another layer of kind of colour, and changing it around in that way. So it's really up to you what you want to experiment with.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Poppy. A couple more questions that we've come through. First question is, how do you get the gold leaf so smooth? And the second question is, what varnish do you use to coat the art, if any?
So really, you don't need, getting the smoothness on the gold leaf is, I haven't really had to do anything. I think once you apply the acrylic gold size, this glue, you're sort of applying it in quite a thin layer and letting it dry so that it's very smooth anyway. And because of the very delicate nature of the gold leaf here, which I'll show you, it's so sort of thin, it just, once you've applied it onto the surface and then used your brush, whether it's a makeup brush or just a normal soft brush, it smooths away any of the lumps and bumps. You can, with imitation gold leaf, actually go quite hard on brushing away. With what you'll find with real gold leaf is you have to be very careful, and actually you often use sort of real hair, obviously not human hair because it's quite coarse, but like a sort of squirrel hair or brush, which is very, very soft, and you have to really gently do it. But you can actually go brush quite hard on imitation gold leaf, and that really smooths away any of the sort of blemishes that you'll find. And in terms of varnishing, you don't need to varnish these, particularly if you're putting it in a frame. What I would say it's probably less so for imitation gold leaf, but still I would advise possibly putting a mount with your frame so that the artwork isn't directly pressing against the glass. I think I would say that with any artwork that's not a poster or a photograph, then it's probably best to have something that slightly raises the artwork away from directly pressing on the glass. And you can get, you know, mounts, Amazon, eBay, often frames that you buy maybe from Habitat or IKEA will come with a mount, so they're kind of easy to obtain. And if you wanted to go for something a little more sort of bespoke, there's a lot of companies, or your local framers will have you know, various options for coloured mounts if you wanted to do, you know, a colourful frame with a colourful mount to go with your artwork.
Brilliant. And one more last question, Poppy, before we head off today. Can you use the leftover foil gold leaf?
Do you know what? I have kept little pots of the gold leaf, and if when you're first using gold leaf, you can waste quite a lot, and I've done so quite a lot in the past, and whole kind of sections you'll see here, this, you know, you press it down and then the whole leaf will come off with it, in which case you can sort of scoop it up back onto this. It's actually, I've got some here which I can show you. I'll pick it up. Here's the sort of the way that it sort of comes off, the excess, once you've brushed it off. Now you can actually press that down again onto, if you've painted some of the glue, the gold size, onto an artwork, you probably could reuse that again. I'd say for something like that, I probably wouldn't. I'm much more frugal with my real gold leaf, the 24 carat, because obviously it's much more expensive. But you know, it's wonderful to use imitation gold leaf because you don't have to be quite as precious with it. And with, I mean, no one likes to waste, obviously, but if you are wasting a little bit, then it's not too bad.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Poppy, for such a lovely workshop today. And just before we race through to the end of today's session, I just want to say some big hellos and thank yous to people that have joined us today. So hi to Caroline, Lisa, Leslie and Val for all being here today as part of this workshop. A big super special hello to Nelson Ward and Deirdre and all the team there. They're joining us for their first ever live session, which is fantastic. And I just want to say a big hello to Snowsfield's adolescent unit as well, who I know for a fact will be watching this back on demand. Thank you so much for the wonderful workshop today, Poppy, and a big thank you from Joe and Leo Unit and everyone that has joined us today. Poppy, do you have any kind of last words or pieces of advice before you'd like to sign off your workshop today?
I would just say, don't get too hung up on doing it exactly as I've sort of laid it out here. You've got the template, so you can have a real experiment with the materials. And I'd say, don't be frightened about the gold leaf. I know that, you know, it's something that perhaps you haven't worked with before, so feel free to just get some scraps of card, experiment with the glue and how you apply the gold leaf, and just really have fun with it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that the camera was quite far away. I hope that you were able to see from me holding it up. But if anyone has any questions afterwards, feel free to get into, I don't know if it works, getting in touch with Jen or myself via Instagram. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Poppy, and thank you for being very adaptive to the needs of our audience today. We really appreciate it. Just a reminder for everyone that this session is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel by tomorrow morning. And also in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be recording the on-demand version of Poppy's workshop, which is a 10-minute tutorial, and that'll be overlaid with British Sign Language as well. So that'll be up on our YouTube channel as well. Subscribe and give us a follow on there. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted a question or a comment today. It's always so wonderful to have you all with us live. It's time now to launch our end of workshop poll. If you could please indicate on your screens how you found the workshop today. This will really help us to grow and improve the Digital Art School through 2022 and beyond. So I'll just figure this out on the bottom of the screen, and that should be appearing on your screens now, and we'll let that run through to the end of the session. Thanks so much for all your feedback. Tom, if we could please have our slideshow back, that would be fantastic. So if you're still here with us, I'd really like to share with you all the story of hospital rooms and how the workshop today has come about. We are a London-based arts and mental health charity, and we transform inpatient NHS mental health units with extraordinary art. The Digital Art School is hugely important as it allows us to build a community where we can join together globally and feel part of something really special. You could find the library of our past projects and all of the previous Digital Art School workshops on our YouTube channel, where you'll find a variety of original sessions with leading artists, from memory landscape collages to ribbon alphabet drawing, monoprinting, and so many more in between. Please do have a look and subscribe to our channel. We also have a Digital Art School newsletter, which keeps you informed of upcoming workshops, the materials you'll need for them, along with any PDF downloads you might need for the session. You can sign up for that at hospital-rooms.com. We love when you share your artworks with us by uploading to our online gallery. You can submit those using your name, or you can stay anonymous. If you've created a geometric heart design, either joining us live or watching this back on demand, we'd really love to see them. We'll be back next week with a mixed media fashion illustration workshop with leading artist Sue Gray, and that'll be on Thursday, 24th of February. Don't forget to register for that on our website. From myself and everyone on the Hospital Rooms team, thank you all so much for joining us today. Another big thank you to our wonderful artist, Poppy Lennox, for such a lovely workshop. And thank you once again to our friends at Anthropology EU for your continual support. Thank you once again, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you all again next week.